Mr. John Rhys-Davies.
We shall have okay. This is very, very, very comforting.
We were in a smaller house in Jacksonville last week, but I think we'll need those today.
Okay, all right. Excellent. Well, jolly nice to see you all. Shall we sit down?
Sure.
Then I can stand up as soon as he sits down. Like that. Right.
I know. It's been so long since we've seen each other. 6 days.
6 days.
6 days.
It feels like 10 years.
So, welcome to Richmond. Hope you've been enjoying your time here.
A wonderful city, wonderful people. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, I'd like to. Well, I promised you some new questions. So one thing I really wanted to kind of go into is you've worked, of course, with a plethora of just fantastic directors, one of which, in one of your projects that I think, kind of like Shogun we talked about last week, that I think is a little undervalued is Victor Victoria. Well, wonderful guy, Julie Andrews, Robert Preston, and the great Blake Edwards. What was that experience like?
And you forget Jim Garner.
Yes, Jim Garner.
I tell you, Blake was the most extraordinary man. He had these, you know, those reflective glasses on you that you can see you can't see their eyes, but you can see your own image in there. And the first time that I actually got on the set to work with him, he came up to me like.
John, I like your aftershave.
And basically what he was doing, he was looking at my face to see what characteristics he would employ that he wanted to present or not present when he was shooting the character. But it was completely unnerving because, you know, it was right in my personal space, you know. And there's something very intimidating about that. He had a matchless sense of humor. And of course, he was married to Julie, and Julie was is still one of the least recognized superstars in the world. And you know why? Because she was so good at so many things. You know, people by and large only want you to be good at one thing. You're a good villain. He's a good actor. But when you're a good actress and a world-class singer and you can dance, you know, wonderfully well with any top-level dancer, and you've got a sense of humor and an intelligence, you know, it's too much. Nobody should have that much. So we discount people like that. But her image at the time was prim, you know, it was, the hills are alive with the sound of music. It was a sort of prim image, which is completely false because she was a spectacularly live and vibrant woman. And in SOB, you know, she gets to flash her chest and things like that. It was very funny, very attractive too.
Hey.
But Blake, in a way, it was a wonderful marriage because she has a solid quality about her. She grew up on the stage. She was virtually raised in a hamper backstage when her parents were working as actors. And that that teaches good stage actors who have spent a long time on the stage tend to be they're either complete miseries or they are wonderful, flexible people who know how to get on and motivate the company. And Julie was certainly that. And Blake actually needed that in his life as well. I loved them both. I thought they were magical. And Robert Preston, dear Lord. And Jim Garner, the great Jim Garner. We had a setup of a sort of circular table which couldn't be moved, and then these chairs around it that were built around the set. And we were all, Blake said, I want you there, you there, you there, you there. And we all looked at this thing and wondered how we could get in there without any comfort. And Jim Garner just sat, pushed, turned around, and made it look so easy. And I remember Julie turning to me and said, just look at that. He makes it look easy. The rest of us are going to look like bloody idiots climbing in there. And just on a personal level, I looked at that talented company with brilliant, brilliant actors. And I thought, gosh, if I can hold my own in this company, I might have a chance in the business. And I think I just about did, but I have to tell you, when you want to play a game, play with people who are better than you, because that's what forces you to raise your game. Sorry for that reminiscence.
Oh, no, not at all. Remember when I told you about he doesn't give answers, he gives lessons? Yeah.
Big problem.
No. Something else, I can finally talk to you about this, and I think this is something dear to your heart in your resume, sliders.
Who is this man, and why was he sent to torment me? Well, Sliders was a brilliant idea. It could potentially have been the best show on television. It could still actually be running on television. You could go anywhere in space and anywhere in time. And when I heard a director saying, John, it's really hard to come up with ideas for a show like this, I did it somewhat rudely suggest that he had no business in show business. If he, it soon became clear that some of the writers had never read any science fiction, for instance. Some that had thought that they could pinch all their ideas from Isaac Asimov's robot thing and pass it off as their own. When I went into the writer's room and saw them looking at the film version of Species that came out and saying, well, of course, Mallory could take that bit there, and John could take that bit there. We could do that there, I've worked with real writers. John, why don't you come out and have a dinner? You're being very hard on the writers. I don't have dinner with thieves, for God's sake. When you get one writer saying, you say, look, I'm sorry about this script, but you can't really have Quinn and Arturo walking out on an invisible platform. Because that's a direct lift from another film, a film that I was actually in, called The Last Crusade. I didn't see The Last Crusade. You didn't see that? You didn't see Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade? What the hell are you doing in show business? And, you don't have to... You don't have to lose the scene. What you do is you make a reference to it, and then it becomes a little in-joke. It is... You have Arturo saying, I think I saw something like this in a movie once, and then it's a reference and it's an in-joke and we all get it and we laugh. But to pretend, oh dear me.
I know, and there was a couple of years ago, there was some buzz about bringing it back.
Yes, a lot of reasons it won't come back, and one of them is, in those days they used to write the contracts on paper, and somehow the original contracts seem to have been mislaid. They weren't actually, so nobody's quite sure who has the rights. Yes, somebody bought the rights to the old show to show it, but nobody's quite sure who owns the basic copyright to do another show based on it.
There's a couple of IPs like that are in this limbo because nobody can track down the ownership.
That's right. Funnily enough, there's a new game called Return to Moria that's being made. And one of the cartoonists in it said, wouldn't it be lovely if we get JRD to do the voiceover? And JRD would love to do that. But there may be a contractual difference, because although the Tolkien estate clearly owns the right to Tolkien's work, it may be that New Line have the right to the image of Gimli. And if they use the image of Gimli and the voice of Gimli, well, you see what I mean. It's very difficult.
Something else that is coming out. Well, there's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and that's about all we can say, right?
Well, I can neither confirm nor deny. But theoretically, imagine that a man was told that no matter what, he should not speak of it until he was told to.
Well, I didn't say you were in it. I just said it's coming out.
Oh, yes. But it's meant to be a big surprise. So I can't talk about it, but somebody did show me a couple of trailers the other day, and I think that might have been me and them. But I cannot confirm or deny it.
No.
No.
No, 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 no.
But I could say this, assuming that I had seen the script, and assuming that I had seen the parts, and assuming that I had seen the wonderful actors involved, and a great director, I think I could probably then safely assume that this was going to be a remarkable and wonderful Indy 5. But of course I can't.
But one thing you can talk about is your new comic book project.
Ah, yes. Well, you see what happened. Two young men accosted me at a fan convention, actually, and they said, "We would like to make a comic book version of your life." I said, "No, we're not." I get mocked enough as well already by my family. But I said we could do a comic book version of the imaginative lives of some of my characters. And I said, for instance, JRD is at a fan convention. His chair is placed precariously, sort of like this. And suddenly, across the room, there comes this man from the back. And he pushes through, and there is a demented look in his eye. And the audience are all going, "Oh, what the hell's happening here?" And he springs up on the stage, and he gives JRD, he opens his hand and puts something in it, and he says, "You must find them. You must tell them. Otherwise, you will lose your life." And then he zooms off. The audience are sending for security by this time, but the guy's gone, you know. And JRD being, as we know, pretty cool and things like that, you know, says, well, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for that. Sometimes people take actors to be who they are not. Oh, look at this. This gentleman has given me a ring. No, it's not that ring. It's interesting because this ring is a Roman legionary ring. And it's got 9 Hispanii on it. That's the ring of the 9th Legion, the famous 9th Legion that came with Caesar in 43 BC. We know they basically built York, and we know that they vanish at some point. And we're not quite sure what happened to them, but legend has it that they were lost in Britain. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it would appear that this gentleman wants me to go and find what happened to the Lost Legion. Now, let me make it quite clear. I am JRD, the actor. I am not Gimli, the 4'10" dwarf. I am not Professor Maximilian Arturo traveling through space and time and alternate universes, and I am certainly not one of the guys who found the Ark of the Covenant and the Holy Grail. But anyway, never mind, let's go. At which point, JRD sits down, falls, hits his head, and wakes up, and he is sitting on a branch. I won't tell you what he's doing, with 2 other Roman officers and a Roman legion opposite him. And he's completely startled. And they're talking to him, and he realizes, this is the funniest dream I ever had, because they're talking in Latin, and I understand everything they're saying. What is happening? And they say, come on, Marcus, for God's sake. For the God's sake. You know, you're really slow today. Ever since you fell off that darn horse last week, you really have had your wits addled. Come on, we've got to go. And basically what they're doing is doing the Roman thing of pooping on the march. And there's a slave there with the sponge on the end of the stick that's washing it in the river and passing it round. You know, pretty disgusting, really. Roman sanitary habits. Actually, well, they were better than most of us, actually. But anyway, so he gets up and he walks towards this pile of legions, and they're saying, Marcus, what the hell are you doing? For God's sake, get on your horse. You're not a bloody foot soldier. And he gets on a horse and he says, where are we going? Oh, dear Lord, you really did scramble your wits, didn't you? Look, we are going to, and then he mentions the Roman name for Cirencester, I think. And the Legion is marching to Cirencester. Why are we going there? Because that bitch, Queen Boudicca, has rebelled against Rome. She thinks that because her husband died, you know, and we allowed him to be king, she thinks that she can continue to be queen. And so we gave her a darn good beating and ravished her daughters, and she's put the entire Iceni tribe into rebellion. And now we're going to teach her a lesson. And JRD, that well-known historian, thinks, wait a minute, I know about this. That's right. It's Queen Boudicca's rebellion against Rome. And the whole of the southeast of England came up in arms against Rome, and they sacked Roman posts and killed every Roman they could find. But wait a minute. The 9th Legion was involved in that. They were caught and ambushed, and only a few of the cavalry got away, and almost none of the foot soldiers. So at that point, suddenly, out of the forests around, come these screaming hordes of Brits. And JRD, because he is clearly a minor Roman cavalry officer, says, "Those of you who wish to live, follow me." And he turns his horse and rides away. And half of the cavalry follow him. And the legion was, just overwhelmed and almost massacred entirely. And I think this is AD 60 or 61, isn't it? Something like that. Anyway, then he wakes up and he's back at the convention. People are saying, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" And of course, JRD, being a trooper as he is, says, "Yeah, I'm fine. Take you to the hospital." No. The show must go on. And the usual actorly twaddle, And anyway, it goes on from there. And he wakes up in his hotel room. The doctors, by the way, look at this X-ray of his brain, and they can see nothing wrong. And then as they go away, and the other one said, "Is that JRD?" And yes, he says yes. And they look at the X-ray again, or the whatever it is, and they see a strange cloudiness in there. So the question is JRD suffering from a brain hemorrhage? Is it one of those terrible cancers? Or is it just senility? Is what he's experiencing real or not? And that's one of the fun things he get. Anyway, that night he wakes up in his room. And there in the room is a stranger saying, "Well, you did quite well there, but please understand, I want you to find the answers to my question. What happened to the 9th Legion? I'm going to send you back again, of course, but please understand, unless you can come up with an answer, I'm going to leave you there, and you will be lost." And JRD says, "You're a figment of my imagination. Go away. A figment of my imagination, am I? All right, well, I think I'm going to send you back right now. 2, 1, bye." The story continues. I knew you just wanted a short answer.
No. I've already learned there are no short answers with you. But this is the pleasure. I'm actually going to jump in our audience now. We'll take some audience questions.
Oh, yes.
Yes, absolutely. All right.
Sorry about that.
No.
But I think it's a nice story.
You all like that, right?
Yeah, what?
Yeah. There's nothing I can't ask him about Lord of the Rings and Indiana Jones has been asked before, and I want you guys to learn some of the new stuff. So, hey, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Robbie.
What do you want to know?
My question is regarding Shogun back in the day.
Yes.
Wanted to ask if you have any good anecdotes about working with Richard Chamberlain.
He does.
I'm sure he does.
No, I asked him.
Carry on, you say it. Richard Chamberlain, I love and adore. And he was in theory, an actor always knows that leading a company is quite a hard job. But Richard led our company so magnificently that he really taught me what a great leading actor does. We'd overstayed our time in Tokyo in the baths shooting the storm sequences. We were meant to be there for 3 weeks. We were there for 8 weeks. And that meant we'd lost a month out of a 5-month shooting schedule. And we went down, morale was very low. And we went down to a little place in the Mie Peninsula called Owasi, where the Japanese had built the first galley in 300 years. It was top-heavy. And so when it moved to the waves, it went... The water, dead sort of level, except, there was no break in the surface, so the water was like glass. And the heat was well into the hundreds. Humidity was more than 100%. It was extraordinary. We were changing our shirts sometimes 5 times a day just to try and keep fresh. And of course, we got on this boat. It's hot. The sun is hurting our eyes from there. And the movement of the boat is just getting to everybody. And people ended up just sort of vomiting everywhere. The director was lying on the floor. I won't lie on this floor because it's rather dirty, but he was lying on the floor. He'd taken 3 Dramamines, and it was like that. Okay, roll it. And cut. Let's go again. Our great DP, Chuy Elizondo, a wonderful Mexican lighting cameraman. Chuy was as tough as they come. And Chuy would be there filming and cut. And he'd leave the camera, go to the side of the boat. All right, let's go again. I mean, just extraordinary. And the heat in the day got more and more intense, and everybody was looking at Richard Chamberlain saying, as if to say, look, oh, come on, Richard, please get up and say, guys, this is beyond the call of duty. You know, let's go home for a bit. And if he had done that, I think the show could have collapsed. Morale was that low. And what did Richard do? He'd sit down between shots, he'd put up his umbrella, he took out his fan, and every time somebody vomited in his eye line like that, he'd just change his eye line, and it just acted as if nothing was wrong, you know. So we couldn't leave, and the next day we did it, and it wasn't quite as bad, and the day after that, he held the show together, and I loved that man intensely, because great star as he was, and don't forget, when he was doing Kildare, he was probably getting more than 2,500 proposals of marriage a week. You know, even my daughter, who adores Chris Pine, probably doesn't anticipate for sending him a proposal of marriage. I mean, that's real quality. I love him. Sorry for the long answer, but I'll try and make it quicker. I beg your pardon.
Of course, Shogun, the big television event, watched by millions, including an upcoming director named Steven Spielberg, who noticed you and said, I could work with this guy.
Yes, indeed.
What's your name?
My name is Chris. So, after all these years, did you find it difficult to return to the role of Sala for the upcoming films? Obviously, without any kind of details.
Would I, if I had been in the film, which appeared... Oh, it's getting so complicated, isn't it? Were I allowed to talk about the theoretical possibility of being in Indiana 5, I think I would have probably picked it up pretty quickly, you know. I mean, not something you forget. It's rather like riding a bicycle, isn't it? You don't really forget how to ride a bicycle, and even after 40 years, I could probably pick up, theoretically speaking, Sala.
Thank you. And we will stay tuned. Hi, what's your name?
My name is Hannah.
Hannah.
And I was curious, as a big fan of Lord of the Rings, if you personally had any themes from the trilogy that were really stood out to you and that you appreciated from it.
It's a mistake to think that Tolkien was talking about the Second World War and the rise of Nazism. Tolkien fought in the first Battle of the Somme. The British Army took 100,000 casualties in the first day of the first Battle of the Somme, 20,000 dead. Actually, the Germans took the same amount. There was, at the turn of the century, the unification of Germany, you know, through the wars of Bismarck, 64, 66, and 70. And Bismarck and Prussia finally united those 170-odd principalities into one country called Germany. They'd got there later. Everybody else had become independent nations. They'd gone off and got colonies. And Germany wanted its place in the sun. And the Prussian General Staff had planned how to build a Germany ready for war. When they were industrializing Germany and putting the railways in, they said, no, we have to have a big marshalling yard there by the Austrian border, because we may have to move troops from the Austrian border to the Russian border here, so we're going to need a huge marshalling yard there. And equally, we know we're going to be fighting with the French again, so we have to lay our railways out in preparation for war. Germany knew that there was going to be a world war against the rest, and Germany would have to fight this to gain its place in the sun. It's called German militarism. Tolkien knew that, and Tolkien gets through the war that sees so many of his fellows broken, brain damaged, post-traumatic syndrome. He gets through this because he knows that German militarism must be stopped. And the moral of Lord of the Rings is, you can have peace for a long time, but from generation to another generation, there comes a time when, if you do not stand up against evil, you will lose your civilization. And there may be a moral that we can apply from that to this time as well.
Hi, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Julia.
Julia.
So the Lord of the Rings movies changed my life, and thank you for being part of that amazing project. It was just incredible, and it means so much to me still to this day. My favorite part of the Two Towers is the storyline with Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas. What was it like, because you obviously all got to spend so much time together with the whole cast, but what was it like spending time with those other two actors as well for most of the second movie?
Well, they're very different. They were at very different stages of their life. I used to get questions at fan conventions like this. Some young teenage girl would stand up and say, Mr. Rhys-Davies, did you and Orly hang out a lot together? And I would have to explain them that he was 19 going on 20, and I was 53 going on 55, or something like that. Yeah, it's not quite the sort of relationship that I anticipated. No. He had a genius and a wonderful look about him, and a freshness that made him perfect for that part. Viggo is a different animal. Viggo is... Oh, no, don't think I'm criticizing in any way. Viggo is a polymath. He must drive studio heads completely mad, because you cannot tame a Viggo. He is an artist to the tip of his fingernails. He could earn his living as a painter. Do you remember that thing he did with Michael Douglas and the Goop lady? Paltrow, yes. Oh, sorry. I know. No. I wasn't dreaming. No, absolutely not. No. And he plays her lover, and her husband, Michael Douglas, gets him to try and kill her. There's a couple of shots inside a studio, his artist studio. Those pictures are the paintings that Viggo himself has painted. He can earn his keep as a painter, as an internationally recognized painter. He is also a damn good poet. He is also an internationally exhibited photographer. Added to which, he is a damn good actor. And he's a complicated, rich a Renaissance man in many ways. It was a real joy to work with both of them, to be honest. It was great joy. I'm sorry, I'll have to cut it short there.
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you. Great question. Hi, what's your name?
Ember.
Hello, Ember. What's your name?
I'm sure you've been asked this question a lot, but do you have a favorite moment of playing Gimli from Lord of the Rings? Favorite line, favorite scene?
No, I don't want you to get me a box. Indeed. Good to see you.
Yes, hey. What's your name?
Davis. Simple question, and you may have answered it before, but Raiders or Crusade, which is the better movie, or rather, which do you prefer?
You may pass or play on that question.
I think the first was so remarkable. Nobody expected that film. When I saw the first script of it, I said to my manager, I've never seen a script like this before. There's not much dialogue in it. It's just pages and pages of action described. And it was really the genius of Stephen that made that whole thing come to life. But then he'd cast so well. I mean, Karen Allen was just magnificent in it. And Paul Freeman, the French archaeologist. I mean, in many ways, it's the most beautiful performance of the whole lot. You remember the evil Gestapo guy, who brings out the torture instrument, which actually means that he can hang his coat up. It's a coat hanger. With the burn mark of the staff in his hand. What a lovely man he was. He'd actually decided to give up acting. And so he set himself up as an agent, called all his friends and said, you all got lousy agents, I'm going to be your agent, and it's going to be wonderful. And they said, okay, do that. And then 3 months later, he gets a leading role in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. He lost a few friends, but he gained a huge audience. Wonderful. I think Raiders of the Lost Ark changed the way filmmaking happened. But what is interesting is that sequels seldom live up to the first one. But I think Last Crusade did live up to the first. I used to talk to Spielberg whenever I bumped into him in LA, and I would say 1 and 3, very successful. 2 and 4, not quite there. Now, what is there in 1 and 3? Will that answer your question?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our last question. Hey, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Becca.
Hi, Becca. What would you like to know?
Oh, okay. So you seem to have a lot of really strong opinions about what is and isn't good in show business and what works and what doesn't. So for somebody who would like to get into show business, specifically acting, what can someone do, in your opinion, to develop the right kind of character and attributes, not just to be successful, but to really be a person of quality in that industry?
Oh dear, you're asking two very different questions there, and they don't necessarily overlap. An actor is a creature of chance. You have got to be prepared. Everything you can do to prepare yourself as an actor, you should do. And that includes at any stage in your life. I have been told and been bullied into and discovered a form of exercise called Pilates. And Pilates is very much identifying groups of muscle and knowing how to use them, and in my case, correct this terrible old stoop, which I have because somebody dropped a wall on me when I was doing a piece of crap for Disney. Oh, did I say that out loud? I beg your pardon. In Croatia, and they broke my back in 5 places. And it's very interesting when that happens because you can't actually publicize it because, agents will be all saying, oh, of course, you can't use Rhys-Davies. He's a cripple these days. He won't happen. It won't work again. So you've got to pass it off lightly, and just a minor accident. Yeah, right. And of course, if you do that, then the insurers say, but it was a minor accident. Yes, okay, fine. Anyway, yes, where we? Yes. So, to answer the physical side, an actor must be able to do everything. No actor can, but some of the great ones could. And you need that flexibility, you need to play with characters, you need to know what your face should be doing, and yet it's really not just about externals, it's about internals. It's about that ability to look at a lightly written character, and find the inner life of the character. How do you act morally is really the question, the second part of your question. I guess I'm not good enough to be able to answer that, but what I would say is this. One of the things I have discovered is there are certain great truths about life. The more we put out, the more warmth, the more we listen, the more we commiserate and have an engagement with people, the more they will give us back. In terms of what I say to actors is always look after the audience. The audience comes first. And if you look after your audience, one day, and maybe 50 years on, the audience will look after you. But just as all of us must really start engaging with each other. I often used to say, there must be shy people here. Oh, put your hand up if you're shy. Look at that. Shyness is vanity. Shyness is because you guys, me too, think about yourself in a social situation rather than other people. If I come on the stage and I see you all looking at me and I think, oh God, they're looking at me and they're saying, isn't his beard white? I thought it was dark last week. It was. And they're all looking at me and they're all saying, God, he's got old, isn't he? He can't really stand up straight. And if I start thinking about myself like that, then I'm lost. I can't talk to you. So the way I do it is, instead of me thinking that you're judging me, I feel that I treat you as if you're afraid that I'm judging you. And my job is to make you feel comfortable and at ease. And when you think about it, that's the point of good manners. Good manners is not just knowing which knife and fork to use, though it may help if you ever dine with a cannibal. Yes. Good manners is the art of making strangers feel comfortable. And for those of you who go into interviews and auditions, try that. Just turn it the other way around. Instead of you saying, oh God, they're judging me and I'm really doing badly. Look at them and think, how do I put them at ease? Yes, I will answer your question. Yes, I will do this. Well, I haven't got an answer to that question. Try and listen to them and feed their needs. And I promise you this, if you learn to do this, there is nothing in life that you cannot do. There is no high spot in life that you can avoid, that you can miss out on. You don't have to be the sharpest knife in the drawer. You don't have to be the genius of the company that everyone's afraid to speak to. What you have to be is the person that somebody can say, look, I've got this idea, but I'm too scared to talk to him about it. Tell me. You know, that's really good. Now, I can see there may be problems there, but let me think about it and let's see how we can work it. If you become the enabler of other people's contributions, you will be the most valuable person, because the most valuable person in the company is actually the best people manager, the person who can get the most out of the talent and genius around him. So I beg you, never lose sight of that, particularly you young people. There is no limit to what you can achieve, but you have to work, you have to work with other people. You can't be a solo actor. There are other people on the stage. There were. It's not. Does that answer none of your questions? But.
And Becca, before you go, absolutely best of luck on your journey, and I look forward to hopefully hosting you on this stage. And remember, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Well done. And finally, for the compare of the year, for the astute, the wise, the curious, the interrogator extraordinaire, a great round of applause.
And keep it going for our amazing guests.